This video is going to be an interesting one. I made a video yesterday, talking about how I got scammed and almost got deported from the Netherlands because I was scammed by a friend. And a lot of people, I did not know that many people had similar experiences. There were a lot of people in the comment section who related to the video. A lot of people have had similar experiences who had worse outcomes than I did. And they asked me to make a video talking about how I overcame it, how I dealt with the police and everything, how I basically came out of that situation. So I said, you know what, TikTok, the video is going to be too long for TikTok. So let me go to YouTube and make a more extensive video so I can really go deep into it. Hopefully it can give people tips on how to navigate these kind of situations if they're going through it now, or if they have maybe had bad outcomes which could be reversed. You never know. So this video I'm going to be going through the whole process of like what happened, how I dealt with it, the police, the bank, fraud, all those kind of things. So if you're curious about that, definitely stick along. It might be an extensive video, but I'm gonna try to, as much as possible, explain as concisely as possible how everything played out. So let's start where it started. So it was around April 2020, around my birthday period. So I went back and like looked at the chats and everything and all the proof I had. And like, guys, reading the chats, reading the emails with the bank and with the police and everything, I really got emotional. I really felt like, whoa, this was a heavy period. Like it's like the anxiety, the panic, the fear I felt back then just came back all over. It's like I was experiencing the same thing again. But it started around my birthday, April 2020. This friend of mine who had moved from Cameroon reached out to me, what's up, just chatting, it's been a long time, all that jazz. Then at some point around my birthday, he asked me, he was planning on coming to the Netherlands in the summer. He was like, oh, do you have a bank account? I need a bank account in the Netherlands so I can put money and use when I'm there in the summer. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna open a bank account for you. He was looking for someone to open a bank account for him. I'm like, I'm not gonna open your bank account. Logistics, I don't wanna go through that. But I had this bank account which I had because for medical school, ABN AMRO, the bank, came and were giving bank accounts to medical students who were starting and who needed a bank account. So I was like, okay, they're offering it for free. It was an attractive deal with good interest rates and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, you know what? What's the harm in having another bank account? So I had it there, but along the way, I have never really used the bank account and I was paying a lot of charges for the bank account. So I was like, at some point, I'm going to close the bank account. But at that point, I still had it and I was planning to close it soon. So when he messaged me, I was like, okay, I have this bank account, which I'm not using now. I'm planning on closing it. So if you're just trying to use it for the summer, you can put money inside. This is the bank number. Put money inside. And then when you come in the summer, you use it. When you're done, you go back and I close the bank account. That was the deal. I was like, okay, that works. So he initially did not have the login details, but at some point along the way, he needed the login details because he wanted to do transactions himself. And it was more convenient for me because I don't have to do every transaction for him. But the thing is, the caveat is with the ABN AMRO, you need the reader. You need the little reader every time you do a transaction. So you need to confirm it with the reader. And I didn't want to ship the reader. He was coming in the summer anyway, so he would not need the reader until he's here. But every time he needs to do a transaction, I would have to confirm in that case. So then he still needed me for a lot of the transactions. So it was 18th of May. So this is end of April. We're talking back and forth. And then 18th of May is when I was having the class. And then he calls me saying he needs the code from the reader and everything. And I'm like, I'm in class, so I'll call him back later. So I call him back later and he doesn't initially pick. And something tells me just check the bank account. Check the bank account and I realized that there have been money deposited into the bank account, huge amount of money. $10,000, which was around 9,700 euros. So I call him and I'm like, yo, what's happening? People are getting poor during COVID times. You're getting richer. What's the story here? And he comes with the story of Bitcoin, right? He says it's a Bitcoin transaction. He made a sale, was a good deal, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, Bitcoin was the thing. So I was like, I have no reason to not believe this. So I go along with the Bitcoin story and he tells me, please, can you help me? Because if I need to do the transactions myself, I will need the reader for every transaction. Since you have the reader, can you help me do the transaction? So can you send this amount of money to my account, this amount of money to the other person's account? Apparently there are multiple people in charge of the Bitcoin sale. And then you can take a certain amount for your administrative costs, basically for all the effort you've put. I was like, okay, makes sense. I confirm with him, I check with him. Are you sure the money is clean? Because if you're going to do big transactions in the Netherlands, it could be flagged. I'll try to, as much as possible, attach segments of our conversation so you can see how the conversation went as well. I verify and he's like, no, the money is clean, I should not worry about it. I'm like, okay. I go do the first transaction, smaller amount, it goes through. And then I go to do the second transaction, it's delaying. Like it's pending. Was pending for like an hour or two. I was like, okay, this is not normal. So I kept trying. And then at some point they said, I'm not authorized to do transactions anymore. And then I'm like, what's happening here? Okay, interesting. And then it went from not authorized to do transactions to the account being blocked. So I cannot log in anymore. I'm like, okay, this is problematic. So I called the bank and the bank tells me this is standard procedure. When you get a big amount of money, we block the account to verify it. But mind you, I had already done the transaction before, which was a smaller amount. So it was not necessarily like the money came in and it was blocked automatically. So something about the transactions were flagged and blocked. So then I call the bank, they tell me that I'm like, okay, it's standard procedure, fine. So I go back to my friend, tell him it's standard procedure, the bank won't block it. It's like, okay, that's fine. Everything is clear. So once the bank sees that it's a clear transaction, a clean transaction, they will release the account. 1 week passes, I hear nothing from the bank. 2 weeks pass, I hear nothing from the bank. Around 3 weeks have passed, and I'm like, okay, this is not normal. What if that was my main bank account? I would be 3 weeks without money. It's not normal. So around the 12th of June, that's about a month later, I go to the bank. I'm like, okay, this is not normal. So I need to go speak to someone. So I go to the bank to ask them what happened. And this lady takes my bank card, my bank pass, and my ID card, goes to the back to check what's happening. It's around closing hours too, like 30 minutes to closing hours. And then I wait there for like 15 minutes, and then she comes out, and I tell you guys, this woman came out of that office trembling with the things in a little bowl. She didn't even give me, like, she put it in a bowl so I could take it myself. She's like, sir, we cannot do anything for you. Can you please take your stuff and leave the building now? We can no longer do anything with you. The bank will send you a letter with more information, but for now, we just need you to leave the building. She's speaking, and the bodyguards are walking towards me. So I'm standing there like so confused. You know what I mean? It almost felt like they assumed I knew why they were saying what they were saying. But in my head, I have no idea what's happening. I just came there to verify what's happening in my bank account. So I'm standing there confused, looking at the lady trembling, wondering what's happening. I don't want her to tremble. So I'm like, ma'am, can you calm down? And then the guards are walking towards me. So I'm like, okay, this seems bad, right? This seems bad. So I just exit the building because apparently she cannot even talk. The guards are coming towards me. So I'm like, I don't want any trouble. Let me leave. So I leave, wait for the letter from the bank. At this point, I'm calling the friend to ask him, are you sure? Are you sure? Because this does not seem okay. So after I went to the bank, I got a letter from the bank, and this is basically what the letter says. The letter was a very direct letter. They didn't ask for any confirmation, nothing. They just says, we're stopping our contract with you. We're blocking the bank within 4 weeks of this letter being signed. We're stopping all automatic withdrawal, automatic payments that were going. You have to take care of part of it. If there are some payments that cannot be stopped automatically, then we will be in contact with you only about those payments. They have put my name in the incidents registry, and the incidents registry is like the external one that all financial institutions can see as well, apparently. And my information will stay in that incidents registry for 8 years. They have enough reason to think that I'm a threat to ABN AMRO, to the bank, and other financial institutions. As a result of that, they're putting my name in the internal and external registry, and I'll be in that one for 8 years as well. And it says what it means for me to be in the external registry. In the external registry, all other institutions like, you know, mortgages and stuff like that can see what happened, what I did, and judge for themselves from a risk to them or not. And then they say if I have an appeal to that, if I want to appeal to that, I should respond to this within 28 days of it being sent. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is happening, right? So they send me this letter and I'm panicking, confused, frustrated, don't know what's happening. So I go to the friend of mine and I'm like, okay, that whoever is doing this transaction, can you tell them to check with their bank to see that everything is okay so I can tell my bank and my bank can clear this off? And he's like, okay, I'll talk to my guy who sent the money. He's going to talk to his bank and then the bank will clear it off and it'll be okay. So I'm there waiting for him to clear it up. He comes after like 1 week. Yeah, and I'm still talking to the guy. I'm shouting at him. I'm yelling at him to check it with his bank and rectify it. And I'm like, okay, can you just get him to do it fast because a lot is at stake for me. And then after like another few days, I text him, it's like the guy has blocked him. I'm like, okay, what should I do with this? The guy has, I still need like confirmation that it's a clear transaction and my bank should unblock me because they're blocking me now based on the fact that it's a fraudulent transaction. And then I tell him, you know, just try to like increase the pressure. If this goes south, both of us are going to be in that registry. It was just me, but I tried to frighten him and say both of us. And then that was the moment where he blocked me. He blocked me. I had no contact with him anymore. So I was like, okay. The panic got real. I was really frustrated at that point. I was really confused, frustrated, angry. Like everything was happening because a lot was at stake. Like my medical training will be at stake. I would not be able to continue medicine here. I would not be able to get any other bank mortgage. Like the fraud tag will be everywhere and every system can see it wherever you go. The question was if I would even be able to keep my bank account with ING Bank. So I was very confused. I talked to a lot of friends, a lot of family members at that point. That was a very vulnerable spot for me. And then at some point I started looking for fraud lawyers everywhere because I was like, okay, I need some level of legal advice or legal backing. So I look for fraud lawyers everywhere in the country. Like I'm on the internet checking, mailing them. I mail like a bunch of lawyers, just asking them advice. What can I talk to anybody? Because I was really desperate. So I mailed a lot of those lawyers. A lot of them replied to me saying they deal with only corporate clients. A lot of them respond to me saying they cannot help me because of the nature of my case. And then one of them called me. Yo, God bless that lady. I feel like I need to take her out for coffee or something now. She responded to me asking if she could call me, and then she calls me. And then she basically explains the whole thing to me. It really takes her time to explain it to me. Pro bono, so I did not pay for this. She says this is what she can do. She can proofread my letter to the bank. So I was going to, of course, appeal. So she can proofread my letter to the bank, but if she has to do anything herself, then I have to pay her hours. So if she has to make any adjustments to the letter, if she has to write something herself to the bank, then I'll have to pay extra for that. And the tariffs were like $250 per hour or something like that. I was like, oh, that's a lot of money. And they take like 3 hours or so to at least read that letter and then make adjustments and stuff. So she's open to me about that, and she's like, I can help you proofread whatever you want. Send it to me. I'll give you an accord if you can send it to the bank, or if there's something that you can change, just slight feedback. But if she has to do anything else, I have to pay her money for that. So I sent her the letter I was planning to send to ABN AMRO Bank, and then I sent her what the letter I got from the bank as well, what they said. So she's like, okay, the letter sounds good. You can send it to ABN AMRO Bank. I told her, okay, great. I'll keep her updated how the progress goes. That was still in June. And then around 13th of July, so mid-July, I get a response from the bank saying basically, we have received your appeal. Let me see. So we have received your letter, and they have judged again, they've assessed the case again, and they are not going to change their standpoint. So everything, all the measures they also took with the internal, external registry, incident registry, those will still be in place. If I have any objections, I should send them to the klachten management, so the complaints management, the complaint committee, I assume. But they didn't tell me why, like what information they need from me. They just said I did not send enough information for them to change their mind, but they didn't tell me what information. I found it very striking that they did not even call me for me to explain the case. Like everything was just based on that one letter. I would imagine you'd at least call to like get the full story and then judge for yourself, but none of that happened. Like I really felt like a criminal. Like I felt like they had just stamped me criminal, and there was nothing I could do about it. Like I really felt stuck. So I got that letter. The frustration was increasing, the confusion was increasing. I really did not know what to do at that point. I was really confused. So the only thing I could do was to go back to the lawyer. I wasn't paying her, but I had to try something. I had to go to someone, I had to talk to someone who had more expertise. So I went back to the lawyer. For lack of a better, let's stop saying the lawyer, let's just use Lucy. So I go back to Lucy and I explained to Lucy, this is what the bank has told me. I find it very frustrating that they didn't even give me like a chance to explain, like I'm being stamped as a criminal. What can I do? And Lucy tells me, okay, she can file a complaint, at least for the registers, for my name to be taken out of the registers, because that was the main thing for me. Like, okay, put me in your internal registry, I will be done with your bank, but let me not be in the external registry where every institution can see. That hangs over my head for like 8 years, and I will not be able to continue my medical studies, not get a national, like everything would just be very off. A lot of stuff could go wrong. So I reached out to Lucy, and Lucy says, Lucy's not her real name, by the way, it's just a fictive name I've made, so I don't have to say the lawyer. Lucy tells me, okay, she cannot file a case at the KIFID. KIFID stands for Klachten Instituut Financiële Dienstverlening, so it's like a special institute for financial services. She cannot file a case there for my name to be taken out unless I've reached out to the complaint institution of the ABN AMRO Bank. So I have to first reach out to them, and then based on what they say, then Lucy can file a case for me. And that I will not have to pay much because I'm a slachtoffer, so I'm a good victim, and there's special compensations for that, which she can possibly check if I qualify for. She doesn't know for sure, but she can check if I qualify for that, as a result of which I will not have to pay a lot of money. So I was like, okay. I went back to the complaint center, sent the same email to them, and then waited for the response. A few weeks went by, then the complaint center called me. I was like, finally, I remember exactly where I was when they called me because I had such a big sense of relief. So they called me, they give me the chance to explain whatever happened. I explained everything again to them. And they were like, okay, we've heard your story. You have to do 2 things for us to see if we can reevaluate the case. Do 2 things. File a complaint at the police and send us transcripts of all the conversations you had with this friend. And mind you, these conversations were in Pidgin. So I had to translate them. And God bless my brother who took the time to transcribe all the things in Pidgin and then translate them to English. Because he had to translate them to English and I had to translate them from English to Dutch. So there was like a 2-layered translation of the conversations, because otherwise they will not understand. So the friend translated to English, I translated to Dutch. So I had to do that for like all the like I tell you, this is pages of conversations. I had to send that and the police report to the complaint center. Guys, you would think it's easy, right? Just file a complaint at the police and transcribe things. But no, because now the next part starts. And this part, I was not ready for. So I had to file a case at the police station. And I went to the police station, and when I tell you I've never felt this much of a criminal before, I've never felt this profile before. I went there, okay, the bank has sent me, this is what happened. The bank has said I need to file a police report for them to be able to go further with my case. And I got this strong sense of, not from 1 police officer, not from 2, but from 3 police officers. Because the first one came, asked me what happened, I told them. And there was this insistence and persistence of, just tell us what your role was. Because it's not possible that you were not an accomplice to this. I'm like explaining. This one, I think the first one was a lady, she goes to the back, calls another colleague comes and asks me the same questions. I tell them the same things. And they're like, yeah, but we cannot file a case for you because you were a suspect. I'm like, who said I'm a suspect? Like, they kept persisting on that. I had to go back and come another time because we just couldn't, like, I couldn't file the case because I was apparently a suspect. So I come back the last time. The other police officer, I think who is a higher up, listens to the case again, hears me out, and decides to file the police report. And I'm like, whoa, thankfully. Like, it's crazy. Like, it was always that thing of, let us know what your role was because there's no way you did not have a part to play in this. I'm like, dang, really? Is this how hard it is to file a police report? So eventually we filed the police report. The police said they cannot really open an investigation against the friend because he lives in Spain, but if he's ever in the country, then they can, they took his name and everything, then they can like start a procedure against him. So I was like, okay, I had my police report, I had my transcripts from the conversation, so now I could go back to the complaint committee. So at this point it was September. So this thing has been dragging on since May when the transaction happened till September. So this was September 16th. So 5 months later, when I finally sent the documents to the complaint committee. So September 16th, they got back to me October 5th, sent me an email stating everything that happened with the timeline, May 18th when the transaction was sent, then everything when I reached out to them, when the bank responded, like outlined the whole timeline again, and then stated what happened, and then they explained their standpoint. So it was like a very detailed email, which I appreciate. Detailedly explained, this is what we think, this is what the law says. And ultimately, the long and short of it is, I could have been smarter. Like, there were a lot of things that could have signaled could have acted as red flags for me to be alerted that, okay, something might be fishy, something might be going on. Of course, for me, it was just a thing of Bitcoins, naivety, giving my bank account. Like, there were some things which I definitely acknowledged I could have done better. Like, I could have thought more about this, but it was someone I knew, so I didn't have reason to necessarily doubt it. So the bank also stated that again, where there's a lot of things I could have done better. I could have thought about things a lot deeper. There were a lot of red flags I could have picked up earlier. And due to my naivety and due to the fact that I was not very thoughtful in my actions, I put their bank and other financial institutions potentially at risk. So I put the financial system at risk, which makes sense and I get. And they said because of that as well, they are going to keep my name in their internal registry. So the IVR, Interne Verwijzingsregister, I think. So they'll keep my name in that one. But thankfully, because they saw that I did not necessarily have a role to play in it actively, like I wasn't part of I wasn't an accomplice. I was just ignorant and naive and I was used. They would take my name out of the EVR, which is the external register, and the incidence register. So that means I would not be able to do any transactions with them, mortgage, bank accounts, anything with them for 8 years. But I can, the other financial institutions are no problem and no one else can see it except their internal register. So I was like, okay, that's a good compromise. I was satisfied with that outcome. I just have to avoid that bank for 8 years and then after 8 years, it'll be fine again. But that's basically how it ended. And it was this for me is a great outcome because I went on to complete my medical studies. I'm a doctor now. I have no problem with other financial institutions. Everything is good. But this could have easily gone downhill. Like if I did not insist on getting to contact these lawyers, and if those lawyers did not encourage me the way they encouraged me and just stand with me during this process, like my family and friends as well, I could have given up. And if I had given up, God knows what would have happened to the rest of my time here in the Netherlands. And there's a few lessons which I learned from this thing. The first one is ignorance is no excuse for the law. Ignorantia juris non excusat. Like ignorance is no excuse for the law. Whether you choose to not inform yourself or not, the law still holds, it still applies. And ignorance cannot be something you use to get yourself out of situations. That is a big lesson. My sister always says that, but it's this was one of the periods where I really felt that being true. The second lesson is really just to be careful who you keep around you when you move abroad. And it's this is something I always tell people. The people you surround yourself when you move abroad really shape your thinking, give you a perspective. That's the scope of thinking. The way the people around you think is the way you're going to think about the possibilities you have as well after moving abroad. So it's really important to think about the people you're surrounding yourself with. Because it's fun. I didn't even mention this during the video, but he at some point also started deleting messages. When he noticed that I was in contact with the police, he started deleting messages so that he would not have I would not have proof. But I had already downloaded the conversations and sent to different people. So it was too late with that. But it's crazy how far people are willing to go to protect their own interests, regardless of whether or not they might be doing something that is hurting you or not. That's so crazy to me. And I think it's not only for me to be careful about the people I surround myself with, but it's also for him, because I know he's a very gullible person and he did not want someone put him up to this. He just came to Europe a few months and someone was like, yo, you can make money fast through this other scheme or whatever they're doing. And I was like, oh shoot, let's go for it. And these are the kind of things which can really compromise you. This could destroy your whole future in Europe, whereas you're just being ignorant and gullible and allow yourself be talked into certain things by certain people. So I think it's really important who you surround yourself with after moving abroad. The third lesson is always there to ask, because God knows what would have become of this situation if I did not ask and if I was not insistent and persistent with the lawyers finding someone who could help me. If I had just done it my own way, I would have ended this case being blocked from all these registers and not knowing that, okay, there's a way out where I could let the truth prevail. I could believe that I was innocent and that regardless of whether or not the system has all these strict rules in place that box you sometimes and are not flexible, that the truth can still prevail. Like, if I was not persistent in asking and seeking help and guidance, I would have easily just believed that, okay, you know what, the system is rigid, I can't change anything about it. But I believe that the truth was the truth. I was innocent, I had nothing to do with this, and I just persisted and insisted till I let the truth prevail, because the truth will always set you free. And honestly, I really believe after this experience too, the truth is your superpower, because that's just what I kept telling. And eventually they saw, okay, there's persistencies, there's no inconsistencies in the story, so he must be saying the truth. Especially in the police station, I feel like they were fishing for inconsistencies. They were really trying to like ask me the same story multiple times to see what changes, you know what I mean? And I feel like they were really fishing for inconsistencies so they could use that to like pin me down and be like, ah, we got you, you see, you had something, you're trying to lie about it. But I kept going with the truth, and eventually that's what set me free, more or less. So be persistent with the truth. If you know you did nothing and you're sure about that, keep persisting, and eventually the truth is going to speak for you. Last but not the least, the fourth one, family and friends, man. Because literally my family and friends pulled me through this. Because without them, like people who transcribed the messages, the people who were just there for me, telling me it's going to be okay, the people who were crying with me when I was crying, because it was a really vulnerable, intense period for me. Like, I felt like the whole world was caving in. It was so crazy. And like my family and friends really came through for me. So like, bro, invest in these relationships, because you never know when you're going to need them. But when you're going to need them, trust me, you will need them. Because I don't know if I could have made it through this without them. But anyways, those are the lessons I've learned from this experience. I hope this gives someone who might be in the same situation, who knows someone in the same situation, insights on how to go about this. This is how I went about it for me. So I think I'm still in the 8-year period. I haven't thought about the bank yet. I haven't thought about getting a mortgage or an account with the bank. So I'm still in that 8-year period. I'm still blocked from that bank, but I can do everything else, and I'm still in the country and I can navigate everything else. I've not had any problems so far from that. So far, so good. But yeah, guys, that was it. Hope this video was helpful to someone. Hope this video was informative to someone. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions. If you've had similar experiences, please let me know in the comment section as well how you resolve them. Maybe someone else might have a similar experience to yours but not to mine, and that could help them as well. But yeah, guys, apparently a lot of people go through this and experience this a lot more than I thought, and people need help. People need to feel like they're not alone. People need to feel like they're not struggling alone, and the world is not ending. So yeah, please, let's engage in the comment section and hopefully give people more things to work with and not feel like they're alone in dealing with the struggles that they might be dealing with. But yeah, that has been it for this video. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to stay updated with other videos that are going to be coming up. But until next time, guys, stay blessed and peace.